Today is the first lifting of NDA dates surrounding the RTX 5000 series, and it is an unboxing video that we're going to be doing with you guys here today, talking about all the physical attributes of the 5090, and also in a few days time we'll release the full-fledged review with the performance figures, which I'm sure you're going to want to stay tuned for because there is definitely a lot more to the 5090. But the 5090 in particular has that bigger CUDA core count, it's got that bigger bit bus, and it also comes packaged, at least the Founders Edition here, in eco-friendly packaging. And so once we unbox this thing, we'll see we've got a 2-slot card that is ready to fit into what you may already see in the screen here, and that is a Mini-iTX build. Now, when I first saw the cooler on the 5090, I thought, wow, this thing, especially the Founders Edition, and I looked at other videos of people at CES, for instance, I saw frame chasers showed all the 5090s in pretty much one slide, and I could see that the 5090 Founders was really the only sort of reasonably sized RTX 5090 for a Mini-iTX build, coming in at 304mm long, so it's the same length as the RTX 4090, except it's also got a 2-slot design this time around, as opposed to the triple slot design on the 4090. Now, it also weighs in less, actually considerably less. So it's under 2 kilos as opposed to the 4090 being quite a bit over that 2 kilo mark. So it's also going to bring the weight down in a Mini-iTX build because we want that GPU as small as possible. But in this case, they've also redesigned the cooler, having the typical blower design with the 2 fans on the same side of the card. But this time around, it is different to anything I've ever seen on at least a consumer grade graphics card. And that is, we've got the 2 fans just pushing air straight through, unrestricted with the cooler, meaning there's no resistance from a backplate or a PCB. And the unique design here is that the PCB is actually very condensed and it's in the center of the cooler, not taking up too much space. And how they managed to pack 32 gigabytes of GDDR7 as well as a massive sized silicon with 512-bit bus, 33% more CUDA cores than the 4090 on this 5090, I'll never figure that out. It's actually, when you look at the size of this thing, it is a engineering feat, but it is going to cost, again, 2,000 USD. However, this time around, another thing that I do like about this card in particular is that they've made an angled PCIe Gen 5 power connection point, so it'll be able to fit into Mini-iTX builds a little bit easier than, say, the 4090 did, not just in the 2-slot, but also now in the top part, fitting your power connector onto this PC. Also, another difference this time around is they've included a braided 4/8-pin to PCIe Gen 5 adapter, and this time it's actually a bit more flexible. It looks like it's a bit higher quality. And one thing that I will say is that I have actually, and I've spoken to this with retailers as well, I've personally had problems where I've had a faulty adapter with an RTX 4000 series card. So getting a higher quality adapter, at least if you have a really good power supply already and you just want to upgrade your GPU, it is a better thing to include a better quality adapter from the get-go. And that's because I've actually had experience with a faulty adapter. Now, you may be looking at this build and you may say, why have you not plugged in the power connector, nor have you plugged it into the riser, the X16 PCIe slot? And there's actually a reason for that, and that's because this is an unboxing only where you're not meant to show any performance figures, nor can you plug it into a system. That was a strict guideline with today's video, and I did ask, okay, can I just build the system and not turn it on? And they said strictly no. And then I went back and forth and said, can I just have it in a case and have it not plugged in? And then that's when I got met with well, that fits the description, that should be okay. So I'm kind of teetering on the edge of the NDA here, back and forth, teetering right on the edge, but hopefully it can give you guys some useful insight if you are planning a Mini-iTX PC around the RTX 5090. And when I look at the other cards available, the bigger cards that are on display, I can see that this Founders Edition in particular, I think it's going to be extremely desirable for Mini-iTX builders. That's a gut instinct. I think a lot of people are wanting to get their hands on this cooler in particular. as opposed to, say, some of the other models out there like the Asus or maybe the Zotac or Aorus models or Galax Serious Gamer. There's going to be a lot of cards out there that are just going to be so big that they won't fit in a case like this. Now you may be wondering, what is this build? Take us through the details. And I will take you through what it will be after this video and the NDA lifts officially for the performance figures. And that is, this build will be a Ryzen 7 9800 X3D system with 64 gigabytes of tuned G.Skill CL30. But let's talk about this case. This is the Dan A4 from Lian. It's a collaboration called the H2o. And I saw this case on special and I saw the size of it. It's coming in at 11 liters. So it's really close to my previous Mini-iTX build that has a handle on it. And I really love the size of this thing. I could actually travel around with this legitimately from country to country and still have an extremely powerful PC. Now, there was some downsides to my 2 builds ago ITX build, in that I couldn't fit a sort of bigger graphics card in there because it had a shorter length. I think it was up to around 280 mil in terms of graphics cards I could fit in this. And then as opposed to this Lian a Dan A4 case, I could fit in a 305 mil GPU. So it's pretty much made perfect in terms of length for a Founders Edition card. But also I couldn't fit a water cooler in this Mini-iTX previous one because it just would not fit a water cooler. It was only air cooling. Then after that, I did an Antec build in the Performance 1M. And you guys thought, Brian, this case is not it. And I do agree. Like, I was looking at that case, I wanted to try it out because whenever I get a Mini-iTX case in, I want to test it out, use it, tell you guys the ins and outs. And that one, for the size, 20 liters roughly, it was just not it, right? There was no support for water cooling. It was very easy to build in, very high quality, but there was just a few things I missed out on. I think the front inputs and outputs on that build could have been a little bit better. And I think this one, the Dan A4 H2o, just nails it, because let's get back to this build right here. A little bit bigger, so 11 liters versus 9 liters of my previous ITX case, but now we can fit in a bigger graphics card. In this case, we've got the 5090 in here, and we've also got a 240 mil water cooler, as well as a AMD 9800 X3D system. Now, for the motherboard, I'm using the B650 ITX Night Devil. This is the Jingyu. Now, the reasons I'm using this motherboard in particular is because it's just, in my performance tests, when I've looked at motherboards, surprisingly, the budget AliExpress board has done the best. It's actually really shocking when I was looking at these gaming numbers, and it also had no problem supporting 6200 megahertz, and even now at CL30 64 gigabyte kit. So it's actually incredible. This motherboard is really underrated. Or it's not underrated, I just think it's one of the best value motherboards you can get, period, out there. And so I wanted to give it a whirl for my main, since it does have the front USB-C out. It does have at the back as well the option to add in Wi-Fi. It's got the 5 USB ports, the USB-C. It's also got the optical for the audio out, which I really need because I have an optical audio system here in my main studio. So really excited about the feature set that this motherboard has. And ultimately, being a B650, I can still do precision boost in the BIOS. Obviously, when I get the 5090 up and going, I'm going to be undervolting this thing, and I will show you guys on day one the undervolted figures on top of all the other performance figures, because I can't say any more about anything in terms of what has been and what my testing will show. All I can say is that I will be undervolting the card, and you guys can expect that from Tech Yes City, with the rated power wattage of this GPU coming in at 575 watts, as well as a recommended power supply of 1000 watts. I do recommend in a Mini-iTX build, you do get a beefy power supply. Now, I laughed. This is the funny thing. A few years ago at Computex, actually, yeah, 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, I was at Computex and Cooler Master came up to me and said, Brian, we've got this 1300 watt SFX power supply. Do you want to have one? And I just said, well, yeah, sure. Who's going to refuse a free power supply? So they gave me that power supply, and I guess they were hoping I would use it in the future, but I laughed at the time thinking, man, there's no way this 1300 watt power supply is just going to be practical at all. But now fast forward to the RTX 5090 launch, And it's very practical because this GPU, although it uses a lot of power, you still need that ampage, that headroom for the ampage. However, going forward with this Dan A4 build, another thing that I really like about this case in particular is it has support for a 3-slot GPU. Now, if you're getting a 3-slot GPU in like the RTX 4090, you are going to have an extremely tight fit. But the good thing is with that extra slot now being a 2-slot cooler, we've then got a bit of room behind this GPU now for the blow through to come through and actually give it a bit of breathing room. So some people asked, are you going to do a Mini-iTX build with the 5090? And they kind of said, like, isn't that going to get extremely hot? And so I just laughed and I just said, man, I'm going to find out what a 5090 is going to do in this Mini-iTX system. So do look forward to talking to you guys about this system when it's okay to do so. But in the meantime, if you want to put something together like this, the Dan A4 H2o, from my research, it was one of the only cases I could actually buy in Australia that had the small footprint, and it included the PCIe Gen 4 riser. Now, the NVIDIA RTX 5090 is Gen 5 X16. You managed to get a Gen 5 X16 riser, or something like the B650E Strix that has the Gen 5 X16 on both the M.2 and the PCIe. Anyhow, with today's video, closing thoughts on the 5090, the Founders Edition, it is extremely desirable. It is a extremely well finished, polished card. They've used, I think, denser fins this time around. And Gamers Nexus had a video at CES talking about the design changes in the 5090 Founders Edition cooler, as well as having a video with an unreleased Titan card where they had a flow-through design and they compared it to the 4090 Founders, and they found the flow-through design really helped with temperatures. So that was a really interesting video too. Good information to know. So closing off today's video, we'll talk about the final things that I'm actually excited for with the 5090 especially, and that is the 3 encoders and 2 decoders. So that's going to do a lot more brunt work when it comes to at least video editing, and also their new generation encoders and decoders too. So they should have, I would assume, a performance bump as well. And then you've got also the overhauled changes coming with the multi-frame generation, as well as on the back, the DisplayPort 2.1. So there's actually quite a few things outside of just the GPU itself, generation over generation, to get excited about. And I think for me personally, I'm actually this time around really excited about all these sort of auxiliary benefits that are to be had from the 5000 series. The NDA lists for that on the 23rd, 6 a.m. PT, and then that's in Brisbane time, pretty much midnight on the 23rd. So do stay tuned for that, which will be turning over to the 24th. So if you're in daylight savings in Australia, you'll probably be on the 24th at 1 a.m. So that's when the performance figures will lift. Then you can buy one from January 30 at 6 a.m. PT, I think, and then Australia will be 30th at midnight, 31 on 1 a.m. So that's when this card will be available. But actually one decent thing, at least with the 5090 this time around, is that there'll be a good leeway between the benchmarks and the release date to make up your mind if you really want this. Because again, it is going to be an extremely expensive purchase, especially just for a graphics card, but there's going to be a good amount of time there to make an informed decision, especially with my review and a lot of other tech tubers and their reviews coming out. So do stay tuned for that. And with that aside, if you guys have any questions about this unplugged in RTX 5090, like, whoa, we came close to plugging it in. Don't worry, we came very close to plugging this thing in. If you have any questions about this unfinished PC, then be sure to hit me up down below. And also let us know what you think about today's video. I tried to make it a little bit different than just a typical unboxing because I'm actually really excited about the Mini-iTX aspect of this case. Though, one more thing I will say about this Mini-iTX build, this Dan A4 H2o, make sure you take things slowly, step by step. It was actually really straightforward to build in, but extremely tight to get things like the water cooler in, the cabling around the fans all done, so cables don't hit those fans while they're running. But I mean, I also decided to just add the RGB on with this Thermalright cooler. Had RGB on the cooler pump and on the fans, but I should have just honestly cut the RGB cables off and had it no RGB at all, because there's limited room in a build like this. So you do have to take things very slowly, plan your build out, install the motherboard first, then I would install the water cooler up the top and route your cables as well as your front I/O, and then put the power supply in and then the GPU last. As well as, of course, prepping the motherboard first, like things like installing your memory and also installing your M.2 and making sure the build is running 100% and it's good and it's tuned before you put it in, because resetting things and making sure things work outside of the build is much easier because you've got much more room than having components inside this build and then having to potentially take things out to get your system working. For instance, if you have a RAM compatibility issue and you have to take the RAM sticks out, with all the cables above it, you're gonna have to be pulling cables out, take the RAM sticks out, put the RAM sticks back in. It's a big pain. So do take things very slowly if you wanna build something like this. But in the end, it's all finished, and I will let you guys know the performance figures very soon. And if there's any tests as well, any particular tests you wanna see, be sure to drop them down below. With that aside, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Hope you enjoyed this one. Peace out for now. Bye.